Okay. Greetings. I'm looking down. It's my first time ever doing this. Okay. Trust that the mic is going to be clear using this laptop to really looking at some settings right quick. Oh no, that's too much. That's too much as well. Audio. Okay, everything is good. Anywho, it's my first time doing this screencast thing, is what it's called, on this laptop. So it's recording and I'm speaking. I love this settings because I can save this and actually talk about some things that I've been wanting to discuss for a while now. Let's give an honor to source. Greetings to all who will see this. I actually share this link and share this with you all. Again, I don't even know how this is going to look, but overall I'm excited for something new. Let's give honor to source, to the creator, the Most High, for making all this possible. Again, I don't know how things are going to sound because I'm outside, and this mic, I don't know how it's going to sound as well. Other than that, I'm looking up a lot of things, and out of the 35 years I've been here, I didn't realize how much and how important our nervous system is to how we regulate our emotions, how much are dysregulated, because y'all can see it on the screen, which I love this. I'm going to talk about this, a dysregulated nervous system. And even some questionnaires that I've had that were shared to me from a beautiful sister that I met. I do not recall her name specifically, but yeah, what was I just saying? She shared this with me. It's called It's called ACE, Adverse Childhood Experience and Questionnaire for Adults. Now, if y'all hear planes in the background, I have no control over that. These topics are so amazing for me because lately here, or currently, I've been writing about my experiences. I actually can pull that up. Actually, is it on here? Yeah, actually it is. So yeah, so lately here it's I can share this with y'all, but before I go back to that again, lately here I've been writing about a lot of my repressed and suppressed emotions, memories, repressed memories, repressed memories, and suppressed. I'm diving so much more deeper into this because it's very therapeutic, and it's very alarming and aware because well-being has been a very vital thing for me right now, with balancing between taking care of myself and prioritizing that as much as possible. So I'm gonna read something that's gonna relate to those the ACE aspect, the adverse childhood traumas, or what is it called? Adverse childhood experience. So right here, as you can see, it talks about what causes a dysregulated nervous system. A trauma or event in the past that we could not process at the time, so it didn't complete and got stuck in our nervous system. If you are familiar with my YouTube videos or anything before, I talk about a lot of these things, such as how the body that sorry, I got distracted by a beautiful butterfly. The body keeps the score. If you're not familiar with that book, I would highly recommend it. And as I continue, it says continue exposure to danger and stress, active, addictive substance, living in unsafe environments, life transitions such as death, pregnancy, and divorce. I know a lot of us probably have experienced something as such. If not, some of those things on there, like life transitions such as death, pregnancy, divorce, etc. Me even experienced transitioning from Things such as like an eviction to a shelter. That right there is like I've have to really prioritize like being with myself a lot more, regulating or learning to regulate the emotion because I didn't know how to do it. And you can see on here it says how to regulate a dysregulated nervous system. Experience a lot of childhood things or traumas, experiences, in the past as it speaks about, and never really having the opportunity to process it. So that right there has been a very like challenging thing for me, even in my mid 30s now, to where it can seem like some may use the term midlife crisis, but I'm realizing like it be hitting me late at night, and I'll be telling my partner like I'm just now learning what it is to regulate, or in this process of regulating my emotions, and it's nothing against you, it's nothing against no one else. I was never shown. So now it's like where these imbalance emotionally, mentally, and physically has been, I'm now realizing like how much I've kept in my body. I was expressing to her even, and I'll get into the questionnaire in a minute, like I expressed it to her like how I had like, I can remember like specifically between the age of, let me see, probably as early since I was a baby toddler, outside of the abandonment wounds, I can remember specifically who my abusers were all the way to the age of being a teenager. And the reason I love talking about this because as uncomfortable as it is, it helps me, it supports me in regulating my emotions, and allows those uncomfortable emotions to come up, those suppressed things throughout the years, and for me to no longer repress it. And allows me to activate or even initiate those emotions from the past, so I no longer have to hoard it, keep it in, and stay stuck in a loop of feeling like this is and will always be a part of my life. And I'm going to read here where it talks about how I like this too because I can actually mark this right here, this very part right here. It says a dysregulated nervous system refers to an imbalance between the sympathetic fight or flight and I'm gonna try to pronounce this word, parasympathetic rest and digest nervous system. This is something I'm learning today, like this is new, leading to an overactive or underactive response to stimuli. This imbalance can manifest as various physical and emotional symptoms, including anxiety, chronic pain, digestive issues, and difficulty concentrating. This shit is amazing because let me tell you something. When I was very young, and going back into like remembering the abuses that I had when I was young, it was wild to me because a lot of this, I just wrote about, and I'll go to that. I'll actually go to that right now. Hold on, let me turn this off. I'll actually go to that to make this more relatable. Let me see. Didn't I write about this? I believe I did write about this. So yeah, right here. I eventually outgrew the environment and people, literally. I actually talk about this right now. I'm just start right here. Talk about this a little moment. I'll fast forward a little bit. And it talks about how I eventually grew out the environment and people, literally. I literally got physically bigger than all my childhood abuses, like literally physically bigger and stronger. And I sometimes wonder if they too deserve the pain that they inflicted, especially when a child couldn't protect himself. and in his most innocent and vulnerable way. Some will never know the depths of rage and anger and emotions suppressed over the years without everyone's. Well, I meant to say anyone. Anyone. This how y'all getting the rough and raw. The real and raw, the authentic aspect of this. Anyone holding space for the healing to happen, meaning that there was never anyone when it comes to. I didn't come from a apologetic or genuine people who apologize about who they are. I didn't come from a space in a family or environments like that because they were so unsafe and so controlled and manipulative. So yeah, just reading that again talks about how currently I'm bigger, literally. And the reason I bring that to awareness is because a lot of people don't realize, like, it takes a lot of mental strength. It takes a lot of courage to even let me see. It takes a lot of courage and courage to even day to day choose peace when those emotions arise or those memories and so forth that you didn't even realize they were still there. And those traumatic experiences, due to having a dysregulated nervous system so young, or being abused so young, I literally got to a place where, like, you work out, and I can see this with a lot of men or a lot of people. They work out or they get into certain career settings and don't realize, like, a lot of their anger and rage or suppressed emotions or what they went through due to having a dysregulated nervous system, they lash out onto other people rather than even confronting the abuse in itself, or even holding them accountable and distancing themselves. Because that's what has happened to me, to even speak about these things and then come to this awareness of how it took me almost 30 something years to realize, like, oh shit, this is what a dysregulated nervous system is. Wow, I've been storing trauma this long. This what and why my relationships have turned out the way they have. Oh my gosh, I realize I've created the same patterns in and out of some relationships, or basically replayed it through certain things. So I'm sitting here like, whoa, wow. And so with that, me being bigger, it's a daily thing to where I'm choosing to go no contact with said a mother, being that was my first bully or abuser. Choosing no contact is allowing myself to face the emotions, the subconscious fears, the abandonment issues, and so forth, because of the anger and rage that comes up behind the fact that I was beaten or abused, whooped for so long, verbally abused and so forth. And now as I'm recovering and restoring this, I'm recognizing how much I have to protect myself. And in that protecting myself, I see the importance of those in my inner circle to also protect them, because in all honesty, I wasn't the perfect father, man, partner, spouse, friend throughout a lot of things, because I did not even realize or was aware of said traumas or events that have happened in the past, where that triggering, or that even that career path or that position that I was in, I was not aware of these things. So again, being able to now have a more heightened awareness around what it is I've been doing and how I've been doing it, I also realized, like, I could choose to be vindictive. Like, I can choose to respectfully not have nothing to do with these people ever again. But it's so wild, and I'm grateful for that I'm able to do this, I'm able to talk about it, I'm able to share these experiences, because I would have never thought I would be doing this. I would have never thought I'd been looking into things like this so that I can live a normal life, a healthy life, a holistic life, so that I can come back home to myself, so that I can become whole again. Because that fight or flight aspect, oh my gosh, I know it all too well. I know it all too well to feel like I have to no longer live in survival mode, but that mentality behind it, just as a darker man, just as a man. Then now, when I'm realizing coming back home to that little boy, I realize the importance of resting now when I don't want to be bothered, and I have to stand up and I have to be honest with the very people who I care about. Because you imagine, like, you learning now how much of your nervous system have stored so much of the events, traumas, experiences in your childhood. And then it specifically states that this imbalance can manifest as various and emotional symptoms, including anxiety, chronic pain and digestive issues, and difficulties. I can mark this right here. Difficulties, concentrating. And I feel that's where the ADHD comes in, with, attention deficient, whatever they call it. And that's what's not talked about enough, because, I can relate that to the anxiety or paranoia around even the fact of, like, when you are abused very young, the approach even behind the fact of how, depending on what you have been in unsafe environments, that says a lot. Does that say that on here? I was just reading something. Yeah, okay, right here where it talks about living in unsafe environments. So this specifically, when you have been abused, and when you have been manipulated, when you have been attacked, that in itself can make someone feel like they're walking on eggshells. And from experience, I've been in relationships, and I've also placed people in the similar dynamics where it can seem that they can be seen as a victim to someone who unconsciously didn't even know that, myself didn't even realize how much, because of what I saw consistently, how much the pain or how much the experience affected them not even growing up in the environment like I did. So it's almost like you're trying to mold them and shape them into something that they're not even deserving of. That makes a lot of sense. Like, and the reason why this is so beautiful that I'm stating this is because when I look at my childhood, I wasn't deserving of what I experienced. So it's almost like we're unconsciously repeating a pattern in these relationships, in these career settings, and so forth. These power struggles, these possessiveness, displaying the possessiveness, the control, reenacting things as what we soaked in as a child, and not realizing, like, are we regulating our nervous systems, or are we trying to protect the dysfunctional or dysregulated nervous system? And that's the thing where I realized, like, growing up and through life, the more I start to come home, the more I start to rest more, the more I got away from substance abuse or certain things, addictions and so forth that it mentioned here. I was sitting here like, yo, like, this makes a lot of sense now, right here. This makes a lot of sense now that me speaking about this, this relate or connect to so many people I know, hundreds of millions, and even people I know in certain demographics. For one, living in an unsafe environment where you have abuse, not even just in the home, but you have bullies or having experienced bullies in a setting. Then people who have co-workers experience bullies, that's a boss. It's so many things where it's not just childhood experiences, but it's adult traumas that people develop. Life transitions where after that, your nervous system, specifically, that I've known people who dealt with transitions of death or people unexpected things. Imagine that happening with a child or someone close to you, and you never really have the people there or support system to hold space for you. You never have that space. You never have the opportunity. So the first thing it says is, like, the trauma or the events here, the trauma or a trauma or event in the past we could not process at the time. So imagine how many of us have walking around. You're talking about if you were sexually abused or molested or something very young, then you having a mother who responded in such a dismiss away, not only do you repress and suppress that emotion over the years, but you never get the opportunity to sit with it. And so again, in darker shaded communities, especially where a lot of things, unsafe environments, there hasn't been a lot of counseling and therapy. So a lot of why I approach these things as such is because it has supported me through learning how to regulate my nervous system. Now I'm also learning to, I'm grateful to go get support from said people, which I wouldn't have been as trusting because of so much of traumas I dealt with, not trusting women when I was very young. So to go get support and therapy from women, that has been a challenge because, again, from having a dysregulated nervous system so long, the imagery, the pain that has been stored, the repressed memories and emotions that come up from seeing women that look like me, so to even talk to them in a therapy session, that almost again puts me in a place of fight or flight, if that makes sense. So I will say like I'm finally, that I'm grateful now at this age, finally telling myself I deserve to rest. I deserve to allow those emotions and those memories and those things to come up and come out and let go of, so that I can rest in peace, rest my body for a change. I didn't realize a lot of things where I would, for those who do know me, or grew up with me, from going to play basketball a lot, I used to literally avoid coming home, avoid my mother, avoid the fact of in any way to protect my peace, that I realize now that I've been trying to do for the longest. And so when it goes back to even talking about the difficulty right here in concentrating, let me tell you something. Again, that's where I can see a lot of the ADHD very young has happened in certain communities, simply because these are kids who have naturally, due to their upbringing, they have anxiety the most. You're talking about over time, the chronic pains that I see a lot of elders deal with now. These are things that they have repressed so long. So this shows up in the body. And this is not something that's highlighted for a lot of us right now, because, when we don't talk about it and then have a safe place, when our mothers, in certain demographics, when they don't have a safe place, when they don't have an outlet, and corporations or places who are literally trying to abuse that and put them more in a position to dysregulate their nervous systems, you're dealing with a country, you're dealing with an environment where if we looked at the fucking earth, if we looked at the world, and if we were a part of, the balancing of that, what you see in nature, when you see in the world in itself right now has I almost said dislocated, but dysregulated nervous system. When you're talking about, let's say, the traumas or events that have happened on this land, you're talking about generations and ancestrally people who have dealt with things that they never got to process. When you're asking me as a darker man to see the trauma of men, not only just in my environment, but also on television, but also in certain places, go through things so traumatically, and never them giving the space, but they're thrown into captivity, they're thrown into places, and they're still never giving the opportunity to process what has happened. And as much as people don't think this shit is vital, that's why when you see the systems that are in place or have been in place that are crumbling, the solution to a lot of this is that you never had people that sat down. You never, if I had the opportunity to sit in front of men or women who have, which I've had opportunity to talk to people who have been in jail or prison, even myself having experienced, jail, a lot of people don't get to process or sit down with that shit until they realize 15, 20, 30 years or months in jail. But then you're talking about being in a confined space. So you're talking about being treated inhumane, being treated like shit, being treated like you don't exist, only to come back out into a world to try to adapt to something that you haven't seen so much of daylight or human interaction, but you've been in the places where you also are amongst men and women, depending on the system of them already having whatever suppressed, repressed memories or emotions that they're dealing with in a confined space, in a room. For people who don't know about experiences like this, like, you're talking about how these structures have literally been created as such just to keep people, again, with a dysregulated nervous system. I don't know much about what they have, but I know there's not enough of therapeutic things in those systems. There's not solutions. And the reason I speak about these things that come forth like this is because I realized, like, as learning more about myself and learning to master certain things about myself, you don't have a society or people or people who are said what they want to call themselves leaders, or people who want to call themselves guides, or preachers, whatever title. They're not giving, again, solutions when it comes to the depths of when we're talking about the well-being of people. And this is outside of religious belief. This is outside of food. This is outside of things on a level where it's just surface. When you talk about on a deep spiritual, when you talk about a nervous system, when you're talking about things internal, that plays a part in how you first begin life and show up. And then when you're talking about a dysregulated nervous system, you have to go even into the depth of what that child dealt with in the womb. What type of did his mother or father have a regulated nervous system? Do they even know? Matter of fact, let me see what it says here. I'm still pressing dots and stuff. Let's see. So these are things that still new to me too. Let me see when it talks about what's the difference between a regulated, how to regulate, oversensitive or reactive. So before we get there, this is one thing I even have dealt with personally. When it talks about emotion, physical, chronic pain, muscle tension, digestive issues, sleep disturbances, fatigue, headaches, oh my gosh, and heart palpitation, palpitations, I don't know. Either way, y'all don't look. I'm not the best when it comes to pronouncing words. Anywho, doesn't even matter. But signs and symptoms of nervous system dysregulation. For one, let me tell you something. When you talk about chronic pain, for one thing that stuck out for me is I used to have a lot of the headaches. I used to have a lot of migraines very young, and that's what also came from. I've spoken before on one of my YouTube videos. You're talking about someone who was hit by a car young, landed on my head, and after that, you're talking about. I remember getting CAT scans. But when you have had a woman or a mother who has battled with, now that I know, when we're talking about dysregulated nervous system, bruh, we're talking about a woman who was shot by someone. And when it says here that an event in the past we could not process at the time, so it didn't complete. So it didn't complete and got stuck in our nervous system. Oh my gosh. I feel like as I'm speaking this and it coming to get into more clarity, how much so I realize, like, I give myself grace and my mother. Because I realize, like, a lot of us don't realize how much, how dysregulated, or how imbalanced we were in the wombs of our mothers, and then coming into incarnating or coming into this world imbalanced in so many ways, whether it's through a living situation. A lot of our mothers wasn't even prepared, and so you can see this pattern even with myself A lot of things where, again, when you're not taught or guided the importance of stability or balance in life, you will manifest that or create that unconsciously in your not only living situations but your relationships, and literally there'll be a pattern reenacted through that energy will literally be reenacted through your relationships, through your experiences. And the beauty why I talk about this, what makes it so amazing, is because as I read these things, I know personally from my mother to have had it or dealt with it. And as I've said before, how mothers are the first teachers. Women, they're the first teachers. They hold us in the womb for a certain, this duration, cycles, through cycles for so long. I mean, just through cycles. And so just imagine the women who were forced to have C-section. Just imagine the women with epidural. There's so many different things where immediately it creates an imbalance with their pH. It creates an imbalance emotionally. It creates an imbalance right here, as you see. What is that? Cognitively, physically, emotionally. So what we're reversing right now, we're talking about women who have dealt with chronic stress. You're talking about, look at this, birth trauma. It's funny, I didn't even read that before I saw this shit. This right here is so important because you're talking about in an environment, in society where toxins, being exposed to foods, certain things when we were young. I'm still battling with sugar in itself because of the addiction behind this shit. Like, it's wow how much, like, we were given things traumatically or through experiences where we were told to hush, or you won't get this, or I won't give you no candy. So many different things. Now, the beauty of this, because I'm talking about the problems, how I was just talking about the birthing process. There's so many women that I've talked to just through my experiences and through certain things that have had some of the most worst and traumatic birthing process with the medical system, that never talk about it, that are in fear to talk about it, who even, again, when it says birthing traumas right here, this is huge. Birthing trauma. Let me see, how could I? Even seemingly minor events can contribute to dysregulate. Come on now. Then we're talking about this right here. This right here again. A trauma or event in the past we could not process at the time. So it didn't complete and got stuck in our nervous system or our bodies. That's what it says, in our nervous system or our bodies. I could see what's coming up for me, or as I'm saying this, blood clots, stress, chronic stress, infections and illnesses in the body. This is most of the things that have happened with a lot of our mothers right now that isn't talked about enough. When you look at the matriarchal, when you look at the modern day women or in society right now, we're talking about, when we look at the nervous system, the dysregulation, chronic stress, prolonged exposure to stressful situation can overwhelm the nervous system. Are y'all hearing me, man? I love this because now I have this laptop to be able to pull up stuff. Usually I would do it on my phone, but this is even more amazing. Chronic stress. When I'm talking about the fact of, like, the grace comes in with so many women that I know, just women in its entirety, especially in certain demographics, unsafe environments, them having to deal with transitions of death to their children, addiction, continuous exposure and danger to stress, with danger and stress, depending on their experience, depending on whether they were abused or not, never really getting a solution from society or anything else, and what ended up happening? This shit is still, they never have gotten the chance to process it. This is where you see the anger, the rage, the frustration, the mood swings. It talks about emotions right here. So you're talking about women who have dealt with the medical system, have dealt with the governments, dealt with all this bullshit, and you're asking them to concentrate on themselves. Let me go back up here. I'm glad that stairs like that. Signs and symptoms of nervous system dysregulations: physical chronic pain, muscle tension, digestive issues. There's things going on with my grandmother and mother right now, and the first thing they're told, like, which is so bullshit. It's like, I'm so glad all of it's been exposed, because it's what it is. I'm on the front line. I don't mind this because I'm a part of the ship, and someone has to talk about it. While everybody out here talking about relationships and distracted by all this other bullshit, I'm getting to the root of it. When you're talking about physical chronic pain, muscle tension, digestive issues, what my mother went through, with even her personal experience of getting her ovaries removed, so many things that literally created an imbalance in her body. So many women that had to sue the medical system because they were experimenting on them. Allegedly is what they say, but people know this is facts. I can personally ask my mom and women that have went through this. So you're talking about their digestive system, where you're talking about blockage, and anyone who knows anything about the chakra system knows exactly what I'm talking about. Fatigue, sleep disturbances, headaches, and the emotional aspect of that, anxiety, depression, mood swings, irritability, difficulty managing stress, emotional reactivity. Like, come on, man. Like, when I see reading this shit, it just shows how much, even times where I didn't even know what was going on in the mood swings that I had, things I didn't even know about depression or anxiety because of the environments, and then having to realize, like, not just your environment, on the other level, when you're talking about from your home, you're talking about levels of the country that creates the anxiety from what you see. That literally, the media, certain things that are literally purposely placed out there, and you don't even realize it literally puts you in a fight or flight. Like, I can watch some shit that's why it's so important it is for me to watch something that doesn't put me in a fight or flight. You can watch a fight or something on TV, and when you look at the media, when you look at society, when you look at how a lot of this shit keeps people, or certain people, their nervous system dysregulated. That your crime, this is what's happening. Your world, this is what, you know, your certain sports, your events and all that, it's the same shit that is individually, will focus on individuals and also collectively. So now, how do we reverse that? How do we reverse that? I can see why certain people will get into said boxing, or certain people are so successful in certain things. This is my perspective. It's because most of them people probably came from a survival mentality, or came from, that's why you will hear a lot of these stories talking about, yeah, they came from this and they came from that. But you don't know what the fuck that person did with personally on a level of, like, having a dysregulated nervous system. You don't know what a lot of them boxers, or even people, I'm just using this, fighters, because I had a cousin, and I'm going to tell you from my experience, had I known he needed therapy younger, and had I known that, again, that was just a part of what I'm doing now, I realized, like, now, his fear, or the pressure on him just as a man to just, when he had kids, then after he had kids, I'm able to recognize now what I didn't see then, because we were just young and we were just learning life, but we didn't know the importance of what a dysregulated nervous system was. And I knew the environments he grew up in, because we grew up together. I knew the mother that he had that talked to him very, in a very dehumanizing, devaluing way. Nothing empowering. And so, as much as we portray ourselves so tough, and in the external, I don't care how big your muscles is, I don't care how big you are, and so forth, deep down, a lot of these men, a lot of these women, especially men, when there is a stigma behind them not having an opportunity to express themselves, most of them are dealing with this shit right here. Events that they grew up in their environment, their living situations, unsafe environments right here, and their way out of course, how systematically it was designed is for a basketball or football or certain things where they can entertain the the collective with more of displaying a dysregulated nervous system. So what people don't realize is almost like dopamine, or it's almost like giving you exactly what the world feels like you deserve, but not really what you're worth. And that has nothing to do with money or anything else. It's you're deserving of peace and a harmonious and prosperous life, but when you are force fed or you are fed things that keeps you, never at a place of balance or balancing out why the fuck it is you have anxiety or depressed, these mood swings, the cognitive part, which is a part of your mental, psychology will teach you this. How you process your thoughts, the thoughts that you're having, and it tells you right here, poor concentration, where you see a lot of the ADHD. But if you can get a dysregulated little young boy, little dark boy to go out there on the field and take out his emotions and take out all these things, but never really having a solution to when he goes home, having to deal with that mother, that unsafe environment, of course, he's going to give everything in his all to make it out. This is not an attack on anyone, but I'm letting you know the depths of a lot of shit. Because I was a part of that same thing. It just wasn't for me. But when we're talking about a holistic aspect to where things not being more focused on external, I told you my approach is to bring people back home to themselves, to the little boy and girl within them before you became whatever it is and however it is through your careers. Now when it talks about the poor concentration, memory problems, they don't tell you about all of that after the fact that you brained your fucking body up when you can't even be there for your kids. You think this shit ain't divinely orchestrated for us to be here? You think that shit wasn't put in place for us to come to now these set solutions to why our generation don't have to not only avoid or repress or suppress what has happened with us and those that came before us, but so that they don't have to continue that fucking pattern and cycle after us. How many of us as mothers and fathers, as men and women, want to continue to live a life with a dysregulated dysregulated nervous system and want our kids to live with that? How many of us are ready to create communities or move or relocate to where we can finally fucking rest? A lot of people aren't ready to do that. You know why? Because this right here, they have a difficulty focusing on the healing in itself. Racing thoughts. They have a difficulty focusing. So when we're judged, here you go. Here's your fucking answer for everyone who want to judge. You didn't grow up in environments that were unsafe like that. And even if you did, here's your answer. Here's a lot of your answers to why you're going through what you're going through. You never had the opportunity through the experience you have to actually sit the fuck down and process that shit. And you're talking about years of not being able to process this. So how does it show up in your body? How does it show up in your body? Let's talk about the causes of nervous system dysregulation. You're talking about trauma, chronic stress, infections and illnesses, birth trauma, toxins and environmental factors. Trauma, past traumatic experiences can have a lasting impact on your nervous system, leading to dysregulation. Infections and illnesses. Certain infections and illnesses can disrupt the nervous system function. Birth traumas. Birth trauma can seemingly minor events can contribute to dysregulation. Toxins and environments. Exposure to toxins and other environmental factors can also play a role. It's right here. I just knew it took a moment to where we can finally get somewhere and talk about this shit. Because that's what's important right now. That's what's vital for the new world order of things. The order of it. If it's been in disorder, we have to order shit. That means if you order something online or something and that wasn't your order, you gotta go back to the source who created that. So now you gotta reorganize things. They gotta reorganize it. They gotta issue you something. You see, recycle. They gotta do something different. They gotta. There you have. Anywho, addressing nervous system dysregulation. Okay, let's find the solutions now. Lifestyle modifications, engaging in regular exercise. That's something I had to do a lot. I realized I was already doing this shit young. I was already walking a lot, having a healthy, balanced diet, and prioritize sleep. Oh my gosh, I always tell people, and I've been telling this for a while, the two most things that are attacked the most is rest and hydration. Hydration should definitely be on there. I don't know if it is, but I'll get to it. The reason why this is so vital is because this is something that I realize as I'm being restored, like you restore something as your memory is restored. When you're talking about repressed memories, your memory is going to be restored from that experience, if that makes sense. When I'm talking about, like, if I no longer repress that memory and then it comes up, I have to realize, like, I have to acknowledge that. So then my memory, it's almost like having a concussion. I had those young, and it took a while for me to recover those things. And resting your body makes a lot of sense because you're able to rest. When resting your body, you're resting your mind, body, and spirit. And it's not just your body. We just been told, like, you resting your body. No. In the dream state, in the spiritual aspect, you're getting signs. You're dreaming, or you whatever it is going on with you. That's why a lot of people have night terrors or nightmares, is because a lot of they're afraid of going to sleep or resting or sitting with themselves. They have a difficulty of focusing and processing the emotion or the repressed memory and emotion that arises either when they go to sleep and then a lot of people I've spoken to one-on-one have had this happen with them. They will have night terrors or nightmares of the person who inflicted the pain, or a memory will come up of something, or they're given insight from the divine that this really did happen. And that's the beauty, where people don't realize, like, how clarity, how people with spiritual gifts can get insight on certain things. So when rest isn't a priority, guess what you have? You have a society with a dysregulated nervous system. When you're prioritizing work, when you're prioritizing chasing things and looking external, and not prioritizing rest and well-being, this is a society you have. You have a bunch of people running around that, again, are dealing with so much shit. Whether traumas, women dealing with birth traumas, men dealing with also postpartum, men and women dealing with that, already dealing with again shit that they never, after having a child, never sat with and processed. Living situations, some of the, with the shelter thing, even that experience, it's not the safest. So, because you have people who are a part of things or been a part of things, and you don't know them, and depending on how we're guided, if we don't have boundaries, we don't have structure, we'll again interact with people who are unsafe, who also continuously go through pattern of a dysregulated nervous system. So their fight or flight kicks in, and this is what you see in the world today. Most of society are in fight or flight, whether they know it or not. And whatever they don't address, they repress, and then they're triggering, continue the same cycle. So the solution to a lot of this talks about how stress management. What's the second one? Stress management techniques. Practicing deep breath exercise. I do this a lot. Should have been doing it now, but breath work is what they call it. Meditation, yoga. That's something I've been also getting into, yoga, because a lot of the yoga and stretching, you gotta realize, like, bro, over time, I was fucking, like, I can remember specifically having 4 or 5 abusers young. And we talking about on the emotional level, we talking about on a physical level, and we talking about mentally and so forth. Like, we're talking about abuse all the way around to where now in my early 30s, mid 30s, I'm sitting here seeing the importance of, like, fuck. Now I'm seeing how I can live a more holistic life simply because, getting away from the people who don't even realize that they're in this pattern, in this cycle. So they want to drag you to, in the mindset or in their world of hell with them. They don't want you to learn how to regulate or find solutions to what it is you're going through. The mindfulness to calm the nervous system. How many people that you know day to day are mindful of what they're doing, who actually have a goal throughout the day to breathe correctly, to sit with themselves, to have a balanced diet, to even prioritize rest? So when you look at demographics, when you look at the environments, that's not a priority. So ask yourself, who is in a part of, and where, and who is, and how do we don't see the people who are in certain positions are part of that problem? I don't care, in the school system, anywhere. How do y'all not see that is also a part of the problem? Grounding techniques. Engage in activities that connect you to the present moment and help you feel safe and grounded, such as spending time in nature, listening to calming music, or practicing sensory awareness. And that's something I gotta learn, sensory awareness. Calming music. Now, we know this. Music, overall, the shit we've been listening to, the youth and so forth. What do you think, and how do you think that affects them? Their mind, their cognitive, their mind, their emotional state, and so forth. A lot of them, I remember when we was young, we used to go out in nature. Now they just stay in school most of the time. They don't even go out and play. They don't play no more as they used to. I prioritize going out in nature. I prioritize it with my kids and so forth. That's something I prioritize. I'm creating a life around that. I literally am and will focus on living more so away from cities and so forth, because what people don't realize, I recognize this, a lot of dysregulation really is the most, is where you see a lot of hospitals. Imagine that. Because that's, if you look at the root and how it's set up, it's literally a loop to keep people in that dysregulated state, to keep them cycling and to make money as if they're cattle, make money off of them. It's just common fucking sense. So self-compassion, to be kind and patient with yourself as you work or regulate your nervous system. It takes time and effort to restore balance. Listen. From experience personally, fucking absolutely. I used to have inflammation so much, and I realized, when I got hit by that car, I told you, when I got hit by a car young, that shit altered my spine to where over time I played basketball so long, I did so many things, and now you gotta realize a lot of these things that I did not process in my body are coming up, especially after they were coming up, but I didn't have a deeper awareness as I did now in my mid-30s, because of things that have led me, because my body is changing, my mind and so forth. But a lot of it, I didn't really see very young, because we're young, they tell you yo, you got a young body. Listen, you still as young as you think, as you move and so forth, because when you really recognize why, again, going here, let that plane go by. When we really pay attention to even what causes the nervous system dysregulation, the chronic stress and trauma and infections and all this other shit, bruh, we already preparing ourselves before, when we already have probably grown up in unsafe environments. Our bodies are literally getting prepared for this shit, for the chronic pains, the muscle tension, the digestive issues, the sleep disturbances, and so forth. I ain't ever in my life wanted to move. Well, I am in the process of doing it. I ain't ever in my life wanted so more to focus on living somewhere more calm, because let's take for instance, a lot of the things that people celebrate, a lot of the things ritualistically that I don't want to participate in no more, has a lot to do with the fact of how it played a part in having so much of childhood traumas and experiences, and having my nervous system being fucked up. For instance, take the holiday of July 4th. People celebrate it however they want to. I don't care. But bro, just to hear fucking loud noises, the booms, and all that shit. And for us that know that grew up in certain environments, unsafe environments, do you know what the fuck that does to your nervous system? Do you know how that makes you feel? It's almost like you go into this fight or fight, you jump, you tense up. Those who have grown up in abusive environments, same thing. Same thing. And so when you're not brought up and reminded that, you know, not being prepared for a world or a real world that is literally full of dysfunctionality, no balance, imbalances, then you will realize how much now so that you are learning to balance or rebalance or restore your fucking nervous system, bro. So all across the board, when I know women with birth traumas, I know people with infections and illnesses, I know people with certain traumas, chronic pains and stress, all this shit. Been exposed to toxins, been exposed to certain environments where you have, you know, gunshots, certain places where they're not given a solution, or they're not told that they can move away, or, you know, this is what the Great Reset is about in life. If I had to like connect this to, somebody call it Mother Gaia, Sophia, or Daughter Earth, whatever you want to call it, again, how can we not connect that to the fact of nature, the animals, and so forth? We all are part of this nervous system being dysregulated. And when that's not a priority around the fact of what has happened and is happening, no one's gonna change it or care until you care personally. And that's what I realize is, like, there is no saving no one. You have to save yourself. Like, daily I have to learn ways to like prioritize this shit right here, when nobody in my family gives a fuck about doing this shit. In the family that I grew up in, or in the neighborhoods and shit, or even where I'm at currently and so forth. When no one wants to prioritize this right here, the therapy, the stress management shit, breathing, yoga and shit, and then you having a partner, like, and all this other stuff, this is what most of y'all dealing with right here. Everyone, most of y'all. It's not even just about the failed relationships. Your fucking nervous system right now, depending on if you dealt with any type of traumas, most likely this right here. Let me turn this off. Most likely if you dealt with this shit right here, you read these questions, man, listen. Most of these I can relate to. Did you experience unwanted sexual contact such as fondling or oral, anal, vaginal intercourse and penetration young? I can relate to unwanted touching and stuff. Did you feel no one in your family loved you or thought you were special? That's a feeling of being seen, not abandoning them, but that's a feeling of being seen and belonging. That goes to the root chakra aspect. Did your parents or adult in your home ever hit, beat, kick, or physically hurt you in any way? Yes, and even if it didn't happen to you, some of you saw it. That still puts you in a fight or flight, because you're in fear of it happening to you. Did your parents or adult in your home ever swear at you? You know, verbal abuse, insult you, or put you down? Man, listen. If you think that shit doesn't have a part of your emotional regulation or your well-being or your self-esteem, it does. Did you ever live with anyone who went to jail or prison? Yes. Yes. Did your parents or adult in your home ever hit, punch, harm each other? Yes. Did you live with anyone who had a problem with drinking or using drugs, including prescription drugs? Yes. Again, we have been living in society, community, collectively, of people with dysregulated emotions. The wars that they went through, the wars internally, then the wars they went to experience. They came home and they would disguise this shit as something to be proud of because they fought for their country. A lot of people get offended by this, but guess what? These are the same people. Fucking nervous system fucked up. Fucked up. You'll never get your same daddy and mama again because they either don't get therapy, or if they tried, or if they try to get veterans assistance, whatever you call it, or support. Come on, a lot of us know the truth of that shit. Nah. Did you live with anyone who was depressed mentally and attempts suicide? Shit, now I know. Did you feel that any? Look, this was the number one answer. Was the first one when I talked about this. Did you feel, or when I read this, did you feel that you didn't have enough to eat, had to wear dirty clothes, or even have no one protect you or take care of you? A lot of abandonment issues, wounds, and so forth. I'm not saying this is everyone. This is a fact of bringing balance to a lot of people who realize, like, you're unconsciously thinking, like, it's normal to live in your anxiety, depression, or whatever it is, and a lot of you dealing with a fucking dysregulated nervous system. A lot of us are. Like that first one, I didn't have to feel like I deserved to have experienced that young, but I wouldn't be here speaking to y'all about this. That's why I love this shit. I love this shit. I really do. I'm so honored because now I'm finding ways through my writings, through my finding solutions where, again, the old world narrative would want me to feel like I gotta what is that? To feel like I gotta let me get out that. To feel like I gotta, like I gotta, what was I getting at? Like it almost feel like you gotta do, like it's not normal to try to find a solution. I think that's what I was getting at because I got distracted. Like it's not normal, or it's just the world will have, like, society will force on people like to believe like that's what your life's supposed to be. It's not. It's fucking not. Because let me tell you something. I'm so excited as I navigated through a lot of this shit. I'm so excited to live a balanced life. And the thing about what a lot of this, as you learn more about the chakra system and stuff, I feel like I can pull this up. Like when you look at a lot of this stuff, how it connects. Basic trust. Look at this. Basic trust, sexuality, creativity, wisdom, power, love, healing, communication, awareness, spirituality. So a lot of these things, again, a lot of people aren't aware that a lot of the things energetically on the spiritual aspect, we're literally clearing. And a lot of this has a lot to do with the nervous system, the balance. A lot of what y'all been seeing out here with a lot of people, listen, balancing the chakras is to promote physical health, emotional stability, and spiritual growth. Like yoga, meditation, and mindful movement. Again, this ain't about you like being a perfect this and perfect that. No, because everyone's, whatever they experience is completely different. Like for me, the big one for me when I was very young was this one right here. Hold on, why is it? This one right here was big for me. Well, basically the bottom. Like people don't realize, like when you meet someone, a lot of these people can mirror back and reflect back to you something that you didn't even have no idea of. And when I reflect on the instability, and you're talking about what it says basic trust, when you're talking about basic trust and shit, let me click on this. Like I didn't see myself getting into a lot of this, but I realized a lot of this was a part of my who I am, my spirituality, my coming into who I am, and this is what brings me peace or balance. What brings you balance could be completely different, but I realize what I'm restoring as a man in my lineage. I realize what I would want to share with my kids, because when I look at the progression or seeing my lineage progress, this is a priority. The wellness of basic trust, trusting myself again, being balanced in that. My sexuality, where I question the creativity with what I create. How am I creating? What type of reality, what type of life am I creating around this shit? Like as a representation of the patriarchal, the men in my life, and how does that look? How does that feel? So a lot of that was stored in these very things. As you learn and read these things, it will teach you about this. And a lot of what a lot of people right now are looking for or seeking, when they don't feel like they can find a solution or something, Everyone's looking for community right now. Somehow, some way, someone's looking for community, a solution. Look at the word communication, community, unity. A lot of us going through our trials and tribulations, going through a lot of shit right now. We're looking for community, and literally, it's a safe place. That's what we're looking for. The root chakra is about safety, security, protection. And when I realized I didn't have that, I literally was reenacting that through my relationships. I would put in myself in unsafe environments, or the unsafety of those environments where I dealt with, again, dysregulated nervous system. I realized, like, as I started doing yoga, started balancing myself, started doing certain shit, I was like, bro, something's really changing here. And it started reflected in my life. Like, I started to balance more. When you talk about your creativity, your wisdom, your power, healing, and love, all these things here start aligning, then I start to recognize, like, my life became more balanced and harmonious. Whether anyone else seen it or not, I had to accept this. Because a part of that elevating and evolving through that, I was like, oh, this is my restoration season. So when you that follow me on YouTube or whatever, this is my restoration season. This is your restoration season. You have to know where you are. You have to know what's going on with you. And in that, this is just a part of mastering yourself. No, like, a lot of these things I didn't have knowledge of until I started, like, having experiences of traveling and realizing, oh, that's why I went through that experience. I can see I wasn't balanced in that area. That's why that didn't happen the way I did, because, oh, wow, this person or this, we probably were going through something similar, or at the same moment, they were there to show me that lesson. So, again, one of the biggest things for me was the root chakra, the feeling of safety again, feeling emotionally safe within my body again. Because if I didn't, that reflected in my actions. The impulsiveness, the immaturity, or the imbalance in, the mood swings, the anxiety, depression that I would project onto people. Projectile, like throwing up, but literally, like, again. And so, as my lifestyle starting to change, I start meeting certain people. I'm like, oh, I realized why this relationship didn't pan out to where it is. Then you have to part ways with people, then you reconnect, and you realize, like, some things they become aware of. Some things you were meant to go down this path, then you meant to move forward on. Because, listen, bro, I didn't ever in my 35 years consider therapy or trying to find solutions to how I wanted to better my life, the wellness aspect, the holistic aspect. But I just realized I deserve peace. And it's more than just peace. I just deserve a fun and harmonious life, because I had to grow up in environments where I had to prioritize everybody else, regulating, supporting their dysregulation and their nervous system. Nobody gave a fuck about mine. Let's be honest. Until you start practicing the self-compassion, being kind and patient with yourself. Shoo, I'm telling you, it's a beautiful thing, and I'm grateful and I'm honored. So that's kind of like my message for today. I will continue, but I just wanted to try this screencast out. Again, I love this because I get to show y'all and read on these things, and it's much better. So other than that, like, again, learn self-compassion. That would be my first thing. And realize, like, if you want to go through this again, I don't even know how this works. I know I get to share the link or something. But if you want to look at this again, I trust that this will be some support in your way, or help you even learning more about yourself and even those around you. A lot of your mothers and fathers, or people in your family, even your kids, because you could have had a dysregulated nervous system and wonder why your kids are acting the way they are. Trust me, I've seen it personally, where I've yelled when my voice has gotten loud in front of my mother. No, not in front of my mother, in front of my daughter. And I'm realizing, like, what the fuck am I doing? I'm shocking her nervous system. Sometimes we don't even realize, like, certain things we do unconsciously until we like, oh, this makes a lot of sense now. So yeah, be better for you. Be kind to yourself. Love yourself. Honor yourself. And through that process, This is going to be one of the most challenging things right here. I'm going to leave y'all with. This is going to be the most challenging things. It's learning to focus on processing the things that you never had time for when you was 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And no matter what your age is, if you're 60, 70, I'm here to support and speak to everyone. You know, a lot of you, you know, your 30s or something that may happen in your 20s is learning to focus. Because then you'll realize like why you've had, what is this, poor concentration, memory problems, difficulty focusing. That has a lot to do with the mental. You talking about the emotional body, the mental body, physical, spiritual. These are things that are returning that are bring us back in balance with ourselves and collectively in humanity. But y'all take care of yourself. Peace and bliss. Shalom. I get off this.